Well, thank you for joining us today. It's great to be able to present this film and this panel today. I'm joined by Tiffany Buck from Arevon, a solar energy company, and by Chad Rains from Key Farms. He is a solar grazer. And Eli, unfortunately, couldn't join us today. He had some health issues, but he's going to be fine. But today's topic, as you heard from the introduction, is agrivoltaics or solar grazing. Has anyone in this room heard of agrivoltaics or solar grazing before? Okay, so we got people who are knowledgeable about it. Has anyone been to a site and seen sheep on a solar site? Awesome, great. So we got folks who are familiar with it. So my organization, the American Solar Grazing Association, is the nonprofit that works with both the farmers and the solar industry side to help facilitate putting agriculture on solar sites. Most of our focus is on sheep grazing, which is using sheep, as you all know, to basically manage vegetation on the solar site. And the original impetus for this really exciting, innovative practice was the fact that you have these large solar sites, the grass grows, and either creates a fire risk or shades the panels, which prevents them from producing renewable energy. So folks had the brilliant idea of, instead of mowing it, you could put sheep on the sites. And they can manage the vegetation, and they could also produce an agricultural product, a commodity in the form of lamb. And so that exciting idea got going around 2015. More people started doing around 2018, and really over the last, I'd say 12 to 24 months, has exploded across the country, where we have thousands of acres of folks grazing sheep on their solar site. And it's an incredible opportunity for agriculture, both in Texas and across the nation. So for today's presentation, we're gonna show you a short film, a short documentary we produced on solar grazing, and then we're gonna have a short panel discussion with myself, Chad, and Tiffany talking about the opportunity here, how it works, and what some of the challenges are. So I think if the film is ready, we can cue that and just dim the lights. We should be good to go. So this is Pastures and panel. Enjoy.
Farmers, in many ways, are the first environmentalists. If you mistreat your land, if you mistreat your animals, you're not going to be successful. So it really is in our best interest to take the best care we can of our land, the best care we can of our animals, because we're going to get that back.
You can see the wheat, which is 2 weeks away from harvesting.
It's a mixed bag. Part is honoring those past generations and the work they did and the structures they built. But yet, things have changed.
Family farms across the United States are rapidly disappearing.
We have to sell out when you're only making half of what you should.
You can't farm that same way. If you don't have a profitable operation, you can't proceed.
About 95% of farms are family-owned.
Farmers are aging out, and younger generations aren't as interested in farming.
And those economic pressures have led to some farms disappearing.
It's thinking of the past, but using them as inspiration to moving forward.
I don't know what the answer is, to be honest with you, but something needs to be done.
So my grandfather, when he was in his early 80s, he had a pacemaker put in. And the doctor said he had the plaque buildup of a 20-year-old. He ate bacon, eggs, and sausage every day. So I figure I don't have anything to worry about, but I think it also is a lot of local produced products as well. Our family's been farming here in Pennsylvania since about 1720. I'm the 7th generation that has been here. I don't think there's a better place to grow up than on a farm. You know, even as a 5-year-old, I knew I was an important part of the farm's success. It's ingrained in you. You're connected to the land, to the animals. Every part about it is generational.
We were in the crop business when my father passed away. And at that time, none of the children were here helping. It was hard for us to get help.
One of the reasons I left was I couldn't stay here and watch the farm die.
We were farming a lot of acres with older equipment. You know, at that point, we severely cut back on what we were doing. Back into place before fastening it. It's blowed out.
You know, as I've taken over the farm, I've really tried to research where our farm struggled, and that seemed to be a lot in the 1980s.
Hi, girls.
Interest rates went up to as high as 18%. It's really difficult to make a profit when you keep borrowing money at 18%.
It's only now that Daniel has been back on the farm the last 3-4 years that we've started to move forward again. We've got to change what we're doing. You have to have that knowledge and ability to start retrofitting.
The proposed solar farm made for a heated public meeting tonight, organized by those opposed to the plan.
Tensions running high tonight. Several officials attending this meeting.
If they try and tell you you want to become a solar-friendly community, run as fast as you can.
Also, the question stands, is a solar farm even to be considered a farm?
Do not call these farms. I've been a farmer my entire life. They plant nothing, they grow nothing, they harvest nothing.
Well, we started out with 3 cows in 2006. We named them Faith, Hope, and Love. We did grass-fed, grass-finished beef. It was a great business for a side hustle. We got a phone call from a neighbor and was asked if we were interested in solar panels on the farm, doing a solar lease. And lots of discussions started happening. Leasing to a solar company as a landowner is a scary adventure. We were looking for a way to increase the income on the farm. We had to work 2 jobs. So I was a teacher, my husband worked for the city, and we were trying to find a way to bring me home so we had flexibility. We still own the land, yet a company pays to utilize the land in a certain way. In this case, the other company is bringing in the solar panels.
Farmers and landowners who contact us who have a lease option for solar development, probably half of them say, yeah, I don't know. I hate solar. I don't like this stuff. I became a farmer to use this land.
Everyone comes at that farm lease at a different angle. You have some who are looking at retirement. There are some who need to pay for college, and the farm's not cutting it.
The prices are incredible. And honestly, that's what's driving their decision towards taking that lease option offer. It's a passive income. And then the question for that farmer is this: can you continue farming, and what would that look like?
After graduating from Penn State, I moved to Los Angeles. One of the things that fascinated me was the way they use goats for vegetation maintenance out there. There's a lot of places where you can't use mechanized vegetation maintenance, and I thought about that with sheep. And then I found out other people had that same idea as well.
We just gotta get going here.
So the sheep love this.
Come on, Big Sam. We call this lamb jam.
Yes, I have heard more than once. What is solar grazing?
You know those big solar fields? The grass has to be mowed. So instead of mowing it, I graze sheep on it.
I was able to learn about the little bit of solar grazing that was happening in the United States. This kind of solar, utility scale solar, and seeing grazing at scale. I saw that it worked, and it was so cool and so inspiring. Solar farms are filled with brilliant people, but very few people who come from the same background as a farmer. What's so amazing about this is it pairs the strength of one industry with the strength of another.
This is a way we can do things differently. This is a way we can be profitable.
It allows you to be a farmer and not have to own a lot of land.
Land access is a real challenge around here. It's really expensive. And it's a high barrier to entry. Solar isn't going anywhere. And these sites are gonna need to be managed somehow or another. Sheep are the most utilitarian livestock.
Sheep are custom made to graze under these panels.
Cattle are too tall for most panel setups. Goats like to eat wires way too much.
Solar utility owners, operators are required to mitigate and manage vegetation. They're grazing under those panels to eliminate shading so that these companies can produce renewable energy. They love us for it because we are the most affordable vegetation management option around and the most environmentally friendly option out there.
It's not taking it out of agriculture, it's adding something to it.
Someone's paying you to feed your own animals and paying you well. That's a great business model.
Sheep have, proven themselves to be very viable partners in ecological grazing projects. Grazing these sites really is a soil spa.
You're grazing that plant material, and then that's becoming manure. In a system that's been grazed over a span of 10, 20, 30 years, what we're doing is we're creating a lot of organic material in that soil. That organic material is going to break down and harbor a lot of microbial life, so it's improving that soil over that period of time. So over time, you might decrease the amount of weeds that are going to take over your field, and then you have a more biodiverse system.
If sheep grazing works from the agricultural perspective, if we can produce protein, then we might have a beautiful opportunity.
I've seen pictures of sheep on that White House lawn. But to see that today would be very different. When we look at consumption of U.S. land, there's kind of a turning point. Around World War II, those rations, you're stuck in a trench or overseas, and that ration ends up being mutton out of a can. I don't care what meat product it is, coming out of a can cold probably leaves a negative connotation in my mind. And when I come back home, my inclination to consume that product is pretty low. So we have this long-term effect from individuals that were involved in that. Unfortunately, the numbers, when we look at consumption of domestic product, we're importing about 70% of the lamb that we consume here in the U.S. from overseas. We need to support our U.S. producers. Local means that you're supporting that family farm.
That first solar grazing contract is really just kind of like that snowball rolling down the hill. Going from 0 animals to, I mean, we're at over 1,700 and growing. If it wasn't for solar grazing, we wouldn't be where we're at. You know, in many ways, the farm was dead. There was no life here. There was no business here. And I know it was hard for me and my brother and my cousins to even come back. There's a lot of shame of the farm has lasted for that many years, and your generation is the one that wasn't able to keep it going.
I have a lot of emotion toward this land. This land is our family, and our kids will get to carry that on. Good job, Brett. To be able to cultivate that heart of stewardship in my children, I hope is a legacy that we get to pass on. It teaches them how to love deeply and grieve as well. They exercise that emotion of putting their time and their effort into an animal, and at some point they're going to either pass or they're going to go serve their purpose. And so that process builds a very genuine person.
There's so much opportunity here. The beauty about solar is that lifespan of that solar site, whether it's 30, 40 years, that land can be returned to agricultural use. That land stays in the family. That land helps fund your other agricultural aspects. I don't think you should work 40 hours at a job and then have to come and work 40 or 60 hours a week on your farm. I don't think that's reasonable. I think if you put that time into your farm, you should be able to have a family and support it. Seeing my family here has given me hope that this farm is going to continue. It's not going to end with me.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring up our panelists. Thank you guys. Cool. Well, I hope you enjoyed the film. It was a big labor of love for us, and it was so important to tell that solar grazing story, and especially the farmer's story. One thing I'm gonna highlight real fast before we jump into the panel discussion is the big question I always get is, how scalable is this? It's just a niche thing. Is it just throwing cute lambs on a solar site? We recently did a census of our solar grazing members, and we found out that about 130,000 acres of solar sites are being grazed by sheep in the U.S. right now. Just over half of that is happening in Texas, which is definitely the biggest state for it. And it's happening on small sites of just a handful of acres, 7 to 20 or 30 acres, and large sites that are over 1,000 acres, some even over 2,000 or 3,000 acres. So it's definitely scalable, and it's growing in all different parts of the country. The West and the Southeast are dominating right now, but there's huge opportunities too in the Midwest and the Northeast. And if you're a solar person, that translates to about 18 to 26 gigawatts of solar, which is probably somewhere in the realm of 11 to 15% of ground-mounted solar, meaning solar that's out on pasture or ground that's not on rooftop or being grazed by sheep. So there's a huge opportunity for this form of, as they call it, agrivoltaics or solar grazing. But it's great to hear the story told by the people practicing and also from the folks involved. And so we have Tiffany Buck here from Arevon, a solar developer and asset owner that has solar grazing on some of their projects and is looking to expand. And we have Chad Rains from Key Farms, who's a solar grazer based out in West Texas. He's also a member of our board of directors. And he's one of the biggest grazers in the state of Texas, which means he's one of the biggest solar grazers in the country. So they're here to share their story. I'm going to start with Tiffany and have you introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit from the solar industry perspective on why solar grazing is beneficial and why you guys are interested in it.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thanks for the introduction, Kevin. So Tiffany Buck with Arevon Energy. I lead sustainability for the organization. We're a utility scale owner, operator, developer for solar and energy storage sites. Our sites span from, I'm going to talk in acres instead of gigawatts. So our sites can span anywhere from 50 acres to 2,000 acres or 3,000 acres. So that's what we're looking at whenever we're wanting to manage land. I first got involved with solar grazing and thinking of as an actual business model from the solar industry perspective. It was over 3 years ago, several years ago, and it was introduced to me, and it just clicked. This just makes sense. One of our biggest costs as an operator is our vegetation management. So that's one of our biggest problems when it comes to the O&M perspective. We have this massive amount of land. We're producing this energy, but we're not land managers, we're energy producers. And so this makes sense to us. And the reason why I got so invested in this practice, and I think this as an industry, people are really invested in this, is because you have two subject matter expertise that need to come together and intersect to provide a service. And so we've got the energy industry that needs to produce power, but we also need to manage and be good stewards for a massive amount of land. There is no better partner for us to partner with than people who have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years, who have that historical knowledge that have been passed down from generation to generation. There's no better partner for us to partner with whenever we say, hey, we need help managing this land. Where should we go? What should we do? So partnering with farmers, local farmers and grazers is exactly, it just made sense for us.
Thank you. And so Chad and I first met at the American Sheep Industry Convention about 3 years ago. And Chad was like, I'm interested in the solar grazing thing. I have sheep. I'm based out of West Texas. And then a year later, how many acres did you have after that first? But anyways, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, my name is Chad Rains. I live in Lubbock. I grew up about an hour south of Lubbock in a little town called La Mesa. I'm the fourth generation of our family farm. Before I started farming, I was a banker. I was an agriculture banker, and my dad came into the bank one day, as he typically did, and I closed the door this time, and so I kind of knew something was going on. This was unusual. So he came in and said, hey, this is getting past me. He said, everything's on computer now. I just left a Farm Service Agency meeting, and it's way beyond me. He said, I'm in my late 60s. I don't know anything about computers. I don't want to know anything about computers. I'm ready to just hand it off. He said, I'm going to give you first shot if you want it. If not, that's fine. No pressure. We can find somebody else to farm it. And I thought about it. And, my granddad was also a big influence in my life. And he was, he didn't start the farm, but he was the one who really built it to where it was. And so I, went home, talked to my wife, and, just tried to decide if this is, something I want to give up a, 8 to 5 job where I had a weekly or bi-monthly paycheck. I had a regular paycheck coming in, to sacrifice all that to take a chance on going to the farm. And so after a lot of, thought and talk about this, we decided to take this opportunity. And, I quit my job and went out to the farm. And the first year we had a great year. It rained and had a good crop. We were cotton farmers. And then the second year it didn't rain and didn't have a very good crop and just went down. I remember in 2011 we farmed around 3,000 acres, and there were some of our farms that had 0.0 inches of rain for the calendar year of 2011, and it was awful. Just the sand blew. We couldn't do anything to stop it. It was just awful, and so. It just kept going downhill from there, and we tried everything. Everything we did with cotton, it just didn't work. We started planting some peanuts, planted some milo, and just everything we did just didn't pay the bills. Everything we kept doing was the costs were going up, and the prices were going down. And I think John F. Kennedy said that farmers are the only ones that buy everything that they purchase for their operation at retail, yet sell everything that they produce at wholesale. And that's what we do. And it didn't work. It just kept going downhill. So transitioned into sheep, kind of started looking at the numbers and did the math on that. And it seemed better, but we were still raising our sheep on farmland. So everything that they ate were things that we planted. And it was better, but it wasn't, it still wasn't what we needed it to be. And I'd heard and, kind of studied a little bit about solar grazing. Couldn't find a lot of information. Met Kevin, met Lexi, and learned about ASCA and just the wealth of knowledge that is on the website. And I literally spent a full year. It was another dry year, and we were missing a crop. And I spent that whole year just studying everything that I could on solar grazing, and it was still hard to get onto a site. It was still new. It was I would reach out to solar companies and I'd get laughed at. I'm like, you're gonna want to put what on our solar? Are you serious? Really? No, I think we're just gonna keep mowing it like we have, and it's fine. And once we at Solar Farm Summit, I met Eli Valdez, who was going to be here, and who's not, but he kind of helped me get, he needed some more sheep on his side. I had a lot of sheep, and so a lot of my theory then became practice, and so we were able to then get our first site. We started in, I guess, January of 24 with, 1,700 acres, 2 sites. No, I'm sorry, 2,300 acres. One side of 1,700 acres and another side of 600 acres. And today we're pushing just right at 20,000 acres. And it's just been amazing. It absolutely, as you saw in the videos, the stories that they were telling about how it saved their farm, it saved our family farm. I've been asked, well, if you were still farming, what would you have made or what would you have lost? I was like, I couldn't answer that because if we wouldn't still be farming. We would have gone bankrupt. We were on a path that where it was not going to work. And the solar grazing has saved our family farm. My oldest son graduated from college in May of last year, and he's back at the farm working with us. Our youngest son is in college at Texas Tech, an energy commerce major, but he's planning on coming back to the farm with us. And my oldest, Ross, and my dad are down by Austin at a site that we have down there, and they sent me a video. We moved 750 sheep from one array to another, and used some border collies. It was a really cool video, and it's what this has done. It really has. It's been just amazing for our family, and it, like Tiffany said, farmers are the original environmentalists. I mean, we care more about the land than anybody else because our living comes from the land. We have to take care of the land. If we don't, and we abuse it, we're not going to be able to stay in business. And so the sheep and the solar, it's a perfect match. It's a match made in heaven. They work so well together. As we're gearing up and getting more sheep and getting sheep on site this year, and just seeing the difference from what it was last year where we were mowing areas to where we are grazing, and it's just amazing what the sheep can do.
Thank you, Chad. Do we have time for questions, or? Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys very much for attending today. I'll just throw how to stay in touch with us on here. Get on our email list if you want to learn more about it. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.